breaking. That's how you have to start everything these days. Everything is breaking, and this is a reaction. Yeah, this is how the internet works now, unfortunately, but it seems there are whispers going around the F1 world right now that more cost cap breaches have been made, which then raises quite literally a few questions surrounding it. It must, though, be pointed out that at this point in time, this is all speculation and rumour. I'll even put that in the title of the video because people are going to be quick to judge, try and brush it off or whatever they'll do, just like how it all went down with the Red Bull thing last year. I did a video and lots of people claimed that they were innocent and were under the cap. Oops. So, yeah, this is all rumour, nothing has been said yet, but those in the know are still talking about it on Twitter and stuff, and Autosport have done an article and yada yada yada. So nothing in this video is a confirmed, it's just a if this is the case type of thing. Cool, housekeeping out of the way, we can move on. So all of this started in Italy a couple of days ago, which is why I think a lot of people are taking it with a pinch of salt lifted from the Dead Sea, because it could just be Ferrari copium kicking in, get other teams penalised so they can close the gap, because in this new cost cap era, well, that's pretty much the only way you can do it. So what is the cost cap and how does it work? Basically, the teams have a certain amount of money they can spend a season to try and reduce the amount of costs associated with Formula 1, and due to the utter rinsing of the global economies thanks to the pandemic and the war in Ukraine. Originally supposed to be $175 million a year, this was cut to $145 million a year, and any adjustments to this will be due to inflation. Because just like in other sports, you have teams or organisations with more money, and teams and organisations with less. Football is the prime example. You've got the money juggernauts of Man City and PSG with their money from the Middle East, and you've got teams that are struggling to make ends meet. But other sports also have their own version of these cost caps. The National Football League, National Hockey League, National Basketball Association and Major League Baseball in the US have salary caps. Well, MLB's isn't a cap as such, it's more of a luxury tax. I'm not sure how it actually works. It's almost like you've got a set number you can go up to and then you get taxed when you go over it, and then it gets reset as soon as you drop back under, while the NBA has a similar thing in effect. I don't really understand it, but either way, the salary caps for those leagues and a couple of others are on your screen. So what this aims to do is it means that the teams will have one, maybe two star players and then everybody else. It stops the better supported and richer teams like the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Maple Leafs, the Patriots and so on, giving salaries the smaller teams can never compete with to the best players, and then winning the league every year. It's why Rugby Union and Rugby League brought in their salary caps. To stop Wigan, basically. And this is what Formula 1 has tried to do with its cost cap. Every team is given this set amount of money it can spend per season, and that's it. And if you go over, you're given sporting penalties and financial penalties dependent on the offences committed, as we saw with Red Bull last season. On paper, it seems like a good idea. However, we have started to see the downside to things. If one team ends up with a dominant car, then the other teams are unable to do anything about it. If this was 2019, Mercedes probably would have caught up to Red Bull by now, either by spending the required money to rebuild the car into something brand new that works, or by being able to spend the money to make that Hyde Pod design work. So to make an attempt at being competitive, teams are going to have to go, right, this season's a dud, let's just spend what we've got left for this year on next season's car and carry that over into 2024. And the rules designed to make the grid more competitive and improve competition don't end up doing that, because the other teams are just going to drop back because they're not upgrading the car anymore. It also doesn't help that, as we discussed last week, Formula 1 is going all out for this 24 race season next year, and that's going to eat into budgets as well. If you're Red Bull, you're going to be looking at the sandwich bill and sweating. Covered under this cap are the entire car down to the last washer, the stuff needed to run that car, all the team personnel except the drivers of the three highest earners, garage equipment, spares, transport costs, and everything in between. I think it's something weird that the actual shipping of the stuff from England or Italy or Switzerland or wherever to the actual race isn't covered, but everything you do once you're there is. So hotels, catering, transport between the track and the hotels and the airport and stuff like that is under the cap. It's all very confusing. So now with 3 teams now rumoured to have busted this cap, it starts to raise questions as to whether or not this thing is actually worth it. So Red Bull busted it during the 2021 season. Williams and Aston Martin were fined for not doing their administration properly. And now it's rumoured, but nobody has actually named them, that this time it's Aston Martin, Haas and Mercedes that are the 3 that have done it. Again, rumoured. I saw it on one article, but Autosport and Yahoo and everywhere else hasn't actually named them. So take that with a pinch of salt. So let's humour that rumour. If Aston broke it, they've broken it because they've been doing all that work on their factory. They're doing all the upgrades, building the new wind tunnel and all sorts. Haas, not sure how they've gone about it. It will have to be a wait and see approach on that one. But Mercedes, well, they basically said, well, hang on, is that the penalty that Red Bull's getting? Oh, okay, right. Who wants new side pods? I mean, that, or we really need to stop Lewis and George's spines from disintegrating. It's probably the latter, trying to fix the bouncing. That's what's done it, but wouldn't put it past them to do the whole, oh, is that what you'll do to punish us? Okay. Yeah, we need more shithousery motorsport. I miss Jason Plato. But the fines are going to be small change and not really relevant because A, it's Mercedes, and B, fines aren't part of the cap. So since we've got potentially 4 breaches in 2 years, will this mean that the cap has to go back to the drawing board? Maybe increase the cap a bit or look at another solution? Football has financial fair play, where teams can only spend 70% of their revenue and are allowed to lose 60 million euros over the course of 3 years. Like the cost cap in Formula 1, it, well, at least on paper, means that the clubs are going to be spending within their means, and it reduces the risk of clubs taking massive financial risks of spending big to reach the Premier League. I know people keep asking why do I do these football comparisons, but at least this time it's properly relevant. It does have a downside though. Implementing this in Formula 1 would mean that Mercedes, Red Bull and Ferrari still hold all the cards. Their massive turnovers through things like Ferrari being Ferrari, Mercedes being one of the world's biggest car companies and Red Bull being a multi-billion pound energy drink company means that funds can just be injected from other parts of the parent group to fund things. Like you see from the likes of some of these football clubs that have a bit of a sugar daddy investment from wealthy owners with bottomless supplies of cash, such as PSG, Manchester City, or even some of these Saudi clubs that are now buying all these European players. But the FIA has recently closed the loophole that allows for such things, like teams setting up shell companies to design aircraft, boats and stuff like that to then funnel all the data back into the Formula 1 team. So make it so that the revenue has to come solely from the F1 operation, so things like sponsorship and prize money, that kind of thing, and no outside interference as it were. It does mean that teams like Haas and Williams will still be able to operate within their means and not spend too hard to catch up. Would that do anything to close the gap? Not sure, but it might mean some teams trying to land more sponsorship to increase their budgets. If you're one of these people that gets all uppity about how a livery looks, more logos on cars. Winning. It would also mean that the staff that are not the drivers or the 3 highest earners of the team might actually get paid what they're worth. I've spoken to a couple of people who have quit their jobs in Formula 1 who were talking about how in the old days, prior to the cost caps, you could start at position A, work up to position B, and then onto point C, D, and then right up to the top. Now, because of the cost caps, that career progression and pay grades don't really exist anymore. So you get a salary and, well, that's it. But I'm sure this will drag out a bit longer. People are going to think that it's not working and should be binned off. Some think that the rules might need a bit of a tweak, and some might just be happy the way things are. Well, Red Bull fans definitely are anyway. But I guess this is the part where things are put into your hands to have a nice little discussion about it in the comments. So then, quick opinions on this whole rumoured cost cap breach from 3 teams. If this has given you food for thought, then like the video, and for more stuff like this, get subscribed with the old bell on so you never miss out on any future content. Massive thanks as ever to the patrons of Patreon, and if you want to help support the channel at a more personal level, you can find the link in the description along with links to everything else like the F1 Store affiliate link, Discord and socials. Well, there's super thanks if you want to buy me a coffee or help acquire stuff for the new office because I'm moving soon. So until next time, I've been AdmiralLaWind, have a cracking day wherever you live in the world, and I'll see you all again soon for another video. Goodbye.